McCarthy, by the way, held a press conference last night following the vote. And, of course, he took aim at the 8 Republicans who teamed up with Democrats to unseat him. Take a listen to this.
They are not conservatives. They don't get to say they're conservative because they're angry and they're chaotic. They are not conservatives, and they do not have the right to have the title.
Well, there you go. Ben Domenech joins me now. So much to talk about. Ben, let's start right there. Is McCarthy right? Are Gaetz and the other rebels not conservatives?
Well, one of the big aspects of this deal that McCarthy cut back in January in order to become Speaker was that he crossed the line and worked with a number of very strong hardline fiscal conservatives, people like Thomas Massie, people like Chip Roy, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and others who obviously ultimately supported him yesterday when it came time to actually vote. Instead, you have these 8, this hateful 8, I would call them, of people who all have personal gripes with McCarthy. 5 of them obviously voted present last time around, and then this time around they voted no. So he comes in with 216 in support. He goes out with 216 opposed. What's the difference? You had 8 members willing to cross the line and vote with, the unanimous agreement of the Democrats that they were better off without McCarthy. When you have that level of agreement from the Democrats in the House, I would pause and question what's really going on there. Effectively, they handed control of the House of Representatives to the Democrats in all but name. And I think that the ultimate effect this is going to have on Washington politics and Republicans for the foreseeable future is that the center of gravity on leadership is going to move across to the Senate, where Republicans are obviously only 2 seats away. They're very optimistic about the upcoming elections, which they think will return them to a majority. And who does that look like? It looks like Mitch McConnell. It looks like the leadership team that they have there currently. And for conservatives, I don't think that's going to be something they're very happy with, to see those people leading the way again on Republican policymaking as the House is diminished and chaotic.
Chaotic is one of the key words. Newt Gingrich, by the way, Ben, says that the GOP should basically expel what he's called in terms anti-Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz. What do you say to that?
Well, I think he's called for him to be expelled from the House Republican Conference. And for as much as Gaetz is talking about the idea that Kevin McCarthy broke his word to him, by the way, Gaetz was not part of that agreement back in January. It's one of the things that he didn't go along with. He does have a commitment under the rules of the House Republican Conference not to back any motion to vacate unless it's supported by a majority of the conference. Obviously, that was not the case. And so in violating that rule, it does bring up the question, will they expel him? I think there's going to be a very strong push in this next speaker race from the moderates in particular in blue states like New York to have there be a serious consequence for Gaetz.
And, it brings up the question, who would want this job right now? Do you have anyone that you would perhaps like to see pick up the reins?
Look, there's a lot of things to credit for Steve Scalise and for Jim Jordan. I think Tom Emmer maybe wants to keep his fire set for potentially after the next election. He's already out there suggesting that he would back one of them, perhaps Scalise. The problem for them is that as much as they are more, heroes from the perspective of conservatives, they also lack the fundraising capacity that Kevin McCarthy showed that made the difference in so many of these key races in the last midterm that won them that slim majority. Without that, to their credit, and obviously with Scalise having to go through the treatment that he does, that's going to be something that is a real challenge for them in navigating the coming year.
Well, it's going to be fascinating to follow, but chaos is a word that's being used a lot today, and I think it's pretty accurate. Ben Domenech, Ben, as always, thank you so much for your input this morning.